Matt Bove live following the Bills' 24-22 win over the Los Angeles Chargers. Matt, I'll say it again. Ugly wins, better than pretty losses. But it's going to be a good Christmas for Bills Mafia out there because the Bills fight to keep their playoff hopes alive. And if the season were to end right now, they would be in a spot. However, some things still have to happen tomorrow. But if some scenarios happen, they could very well stay in a playoff spot after all the games are done tomorrow. Your takeaways from a game that I don't think any of us really were expecting.
Do you know what December 23rd is? Do you know what holiday December 23rd is?
Well, I did until I watched Leaving the Charge right here on 7 ABC. It's Festivus.
Hey, it's Festivus. So on Festivus, you air your grievances. That's one of the things that you do on the holiday. My first grievance is with my computer that automatically restarted while we were in the middle of doing the StreamYard, 15, 20 minutes ago. My second grievance is how many people are freaking out that they won a game. Listen, it was ugly. It was on the road. It was a short week. It was a trap game, if you want to call it that. The Chargers just got embarrassed. They have a new coach. They are trying to make a statement. You've got a rookie quarterback who is playing with nothing to lose. The Bills are coming off of a super emotional win. It's almost like the opposite of what the Cowboys did last week, right? The Cowboys are coming off a huge win against the Eagles, and then they come to Buffalo and they lay an egg. Well, the Bills are coming off of a huge win against the Cowboys. They have 3 turnovers. They make a bunch of stupid mistakes, and they still win the game. So for me, at the end of the day, that is far and away the most important thing. It was not pretty, but like you said, I'll give you credit here. Ugly wins are a lot better than pretty losses.
Yeah, and listen, when you are the Bills and you have put yourself in this position we've talked about so much, and your back's against the wall, and every game is a must win at this point, they got the job done. And you found a way to win. You're 1-0 for the week, and that's what this team did. There is no easy way to go about and do it in the NFL. I think I go back and look at when the Raiders fired Josh McDaniels and Pierce took over as the interim head coach. Yeah. They came out that same game very similar to like how the Chargers had a different energy for the same reason, right?
Yep.
They just got embarrassed the game before. The players know that their actions on the field, the way they play, cost another grown man a job. You got to forget, these are grown men who play this game, but also know that their play dictates how other grown men hold a job. So that being said, it had every recipe for a trap game. And I know the 3 turnovers are, I think, what people are going to really look at the most and maybe criticize them for. You still found a way to get a win. What was, I guess, Matt, I want to ask you, your biggest impact player? We'll start there. I think I kind of know your answer. I think it's the same one as mine, but who is it and why?
You could have probably guessed who my answer would be before the game even happened, right? But yeah, it was Gabe Davis, right? Yeah. I mean, he was awesome for them. At one point, they're losing 10-0. It's in the second quarter, and they needed a big play. And Josh rolls out to his right. He throws up a deep shot, 38 air yards under it, and he connects with Gabe Davis, who made a tough catch. Like, it was a little out in front of him. It's a catch that you want an NFL receiver to make, but it is not a catch that it's a foregone conclusion. If that hits his hands and drops to the ground, it's probably not a drop. It's just like a, wow, that one was really, really close to hitting. So he catches it, and then he also drags a guy 15 yards, gets into the end zone. So that was kind of the spark this team needed. Then they go into the half up 14-10. And then in the second half, when they once again scored another touchdown, it was Gabe Davis with like a 30-yarder down the sideline, a really pretty catch over his shoulder, a perfect pass from Josh Allen. So for me, it was Gabe Davis offensively. And then defensively, it's Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver was awesome in this game. He had a sack earlier in the game, and then he had a sack that basically sealed the win on the last drive. So kudos to those guys. There were a couple other players that stepped up big, but those are the 2 that I immediately thought of. Anybody else I miss?
Well, personally for me, I've waited till week 16. We did a story back in training camp on Poona Ford, and I was waiting for his moment, and Poona had a monster sack at the right time. It took me 16 weeks that I got to reshare the story we did, but that's a personal one for me. I'm looking at the stat sheet now. I thought Taron Johnson had a really good game. I think on the stat sheet it shows, but I thought Taron had some really big plays in the secondary. Rasul Douglas had some nice plays too tonight. I mean, I know it ended up being a touchdown anyways with Easton Stick, but I kind of thought the Bills were going to hold after he stopped Gerald Everett very early in the game on what should have been a touchdown, but Rasul laid a nice hit into him. So, yeah, I think Gabe is obviously the big one. I think Khalil Shakir, you have to say, had a big game just because he came up in that big moment, was
Yeah.
able to come back on that ball to Josh, and he's maybe what would you say, a split second getting up away from that being a touchdown and the game is over. So I thought initially, until the replay slowed it down, Khalil, that was a touchdown. But I mean, that was big, and that put the Bills in field goal position.
It almost was better that it wasn't a
Yeah,
touchdown.
I could. Yeah, absolutely.
You could make that argument either way. So the Bills gave the ball back to Kansas City, to the Chargers. I think there was 28 seconds left, and then they did a squib kick, and then they got it with 23 seconds left. So at that point, I think if they would have had timeouts, then you could have made the argument that you would have rather had Shakir score the touchdown. But the thing that's tricky there is if you get the touchdown, but you don't go for 2, you would have only been leading by 5. And then you would have had the Chargers. They would have had 2.5 minutes. So clock really wouldn't have been an issue to go down and score a touchdown, which you would have once again probably signed up for, considering it's Easton Stick and it's a bunch of players who are not, their full caliber offense. But I like the idea of giving them the ball back with 20 seconds and no timeouts more than I do with 2.5 minutes on the clock and a touchdown loses it for you. So either way, like if you're a Josh Allen fantasy owner like myself, or if you're somebody who had a betting interest in this game, maybe you would have wanted to see a touchdown.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it might have ultimately helped them that he was ruled down, even though I don't know if he was, to be honest. It was really close.
It was very close. I think you make that argument too. I also think just like hindsight 2020, right? You like if God forbid Tyler Bass misses that field goal, we're having a much different conversation. Obviously,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
So that's the thing. It's like, well, you were sure to at least have some points. Where in Cameron Dicker, he was on fire tonight. He might be the best kicker in the NFL. I think his streak is insane right now. The amount of consecutive field goals he's kicked. So that being said, even if you find a way to take him out of it where, a field goal from him doesn't win the game, that might have felt a little bit better too. But either way, the Bills get the win. So looking ahead now, the Bills got some help, Matt, because the Steelers beat the Bengals today. So hypothetically, like I said in the beginning, the Bills would be in the playoffs if the season ended today. You won't see them in the early slate of 1:00 games tomorrow. You won't see the Bills in the hunt section of those graphics. You'll see them in the actual wild card race. The Texans play the Browns, so 2 teams in the wild card there. The Colts play Atlanta. The Bills, ultimately, the best part is they have full control. So it's continue to win, find ways to win, and ultimately maybe, I don't know, Week 18 could be not only playing for the division, but you also might be able to lose in a scenario and still get a playoff spot.
I have updated odds as of 11:47 from the New York Times. Do you know what their playoff chances are up to now?
81%.
80%. So very good. Price is Right rules, though, as you would know, you're out. So you lose, I win. 80%. If they win against the Patriots and they lose to the Dolphins, as of right now, it is a 67% chance of making the playoffs, which is still significantly better than it was several weeks ago. This is one of those situations. Control your own destiny. Go win the games, right? Like, do not let this season has been so strange. In any other year, you would imagine 10-7 would get you into the playoffs. Well, because the Bills only have a 5-5 conference record, they don't have the tiebreakers over a lot of teams. You look at who the Bengals play next week, they've got the Chiefs. So the Chiefs are still playing for a lot. You would imagine that the Chiefs are probably going to beat the Bengals. Who the heck knows? Let's look at the rest of this week. The Browns and the Texans play. In that game, it's kind of a weird one because if the Browns win, they basically clinch a playoff spot. But if the Texans lose, then that, I don't want to say takes them out of it, but it gives them another loss and it puts the Bills ahead of them. And then some of the other teams, obviously, like you want the Cowboys to beat the Dolphins. That would be a very, very big one. That's probably the biggest if the Bills still have a chance at the AFC East. You want the Patriots to beat the Broncos. That would be a big one. That'd be a huge help for the Bills. You want the Falcons to beat the Colts. Listen, the Falcons at home, they're still in the hunt for the playoff spot. The Colts don't have Zach Moss. They don't have Jonathan Taylor. Like, that's not a game that I think is impossible for them to win. So, like, it is shaping out nicely. It's not obviously super comfortable, but it
Yeah,
is
yeah.
significantly more than it was.
Well, let's call it what it is too. The Bills don't get the luxury of comfortability anymore.
No.
They put themselves in a point this season. I mean, you and I stood on that field after the Denver game. Like, you pretty much lost the element of comfort from that
Mhm.
moment moving forward. But hey, again, this and the NFL works in a way that is so crazy because it's not about how well you play all season. It is about how well you play late, and that's what the Bills seem to be doing. It very
Mhm.
very remnants of that 21 season. That's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I think for the Bills, your best case scenario is that you get a ton of help the next 2 weeks and you handle your business against the Patriots, and that regardless going into Miami, that you're in the playoffs. Now, I don't know what the chances of that are. I think that would require a lot of chaos, but I think there would be something it would go a long way if you knew that you were still making the playoffs or winning the
right.
AFC East. That is significantly different than if you win the AFC East, or you have to win to make the playoffs in general. I mean, who knows? Miami could go out and win their next 2 games. They're tough. They're two really tough games, but
Mhm.
use tonight as evidence that this is a very strange league and weird things happen all of the time. So I don't think Miami's going to win their next 2 games, but I think they'll win one of them. And that'll make week 18 that much more interesting. I also think that, let's see, if they lose to the Patriots, oh goodness gracious. If they lose to the Patriots, their chances of making the playoffs drop to 40%. So there
Out.
would still be a chance that they could get in
Right.
that last week 18. Just go beat the Patriots, right? Like, you almost lost to the Chargers. You should respond with a really nice
Yeah.
game at home against the Patriots.
And just one thing I will add to this is just like another playoff scenario. This is just things that help the Bills. You know,
Hmm.
regardless of how the Browns Texans play out tomorrow, the Texans and Colts have to play each other one more time this year.
Yep,
So
exactly.
that obviously helps the Bills. Matt, one last thing I want to touch on here in the it's Festivus today. Tomorrow being Christmas. Well, today's Christmas Eve actually, so it's no longer Festivus. You lose track
Uh-huh.
of time. In the spirit of holiday season, is it okay for families to have a good Christmas and maybe take the pressure of the bills off of their minds, off the dinner table conversations, maybe until next week?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about, so I am, going to my aunt and uncle's house in Rochester for Christmas Eve. I'll be around a bunch of family on Christmas Day. It's our daughter's first Christmas. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, I really don't know if I can have the conversation over and over and over again about what went wrong in the Chargers game. Now I'm going to just be like, listen, they won. You have an entire another week where you can enjoy football and you can get excited for a game on New Year's Eve against the
Yep.
Patriots. They've got a chance. Just root for chaos all around you. So, yes, this is making the holiday for myself, for probably you, for
Yeah.
anybody in Western New York, probably exponentially greater than it would have been with it's football. Like, I've realized that. I'm saying that as somebody who realizes there are so many more important things in life than a silly game, but it's a silly game that impacts a lot of people. Christmas Eve, those people doing their last minute shopping on Christmas Eve would have been miserable
Oh
if the
yeah.
Bills lost. Now it's just like, hey, at least they
They're walking
live to
around.
fight
Well,
it.
yeah, they're walking around a store. They're like looking at
Yeah.
like all the Bills gear that somehow got marked 30% off because of the loss, and they just don't want to
Yeah,
look at it anymore. Uh,
exactly.
yeah, no, it's I think it's a fair point. I think it's you can talk happily about the Bills. They still
Hmm.
control their own destiny. You
That's
can have
huge.
other
That's
conversation.
huge.
Yeah, yeah, and you get
They
to
didn't
literally.
going into today. They like, because of the help, it was regardless of how, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Regardless of how close of a game it was a perfect Saturday for them. They won and the Bengals lost. That is exactly what they needed. If they get a little bit more help on Christmas Eve, it could be a really, really good weekend for them.
Well, and it takes the pressure off fans, Bills Mafia out there who now have to like we're watching these Christmas Eve, Christmas games and thinking, oh, we need these teams to win, blah blah blah, because the Bills lost. It's like no, it just maybe ensures a scenario where wildly the Bills could have something locked up. Who knows? Maybe before the Week 18 game against Miami even happens. But
Mhm.
regardless, it's victory. What is today now? Sunday, victory
Yeah,
Sunday. All
it's
right,
a weird
so
one. I know.
I hope everybody here, thank you all for tuning in, has a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays from all the 7 sports team. Matt, is there anything else we need to add before we call this one a wrap here?
No, just in general, thank you for doing this. I know it's late. Thank you to those of you who watched. Happy holidays to you, your family, your loved ones. I hope you can spend time with those you care about and you get a Bills win. So that's exciting too. So I hope you all have a great holiday. We will be back with plenty as we get ready for now the Patriots game and then the Dolphins game. Enjoy the wins. It's a weird league. Weird stuff happens around the league. I mean, look at the Bengals. The Bengals went into today as the 6th seed and had a good chance at making the playoffs. Not a great chance, but a good chance if they would have won out. And they got their doors blown off by a team that had Mason Rudolph as their starting quarterback.
And now they're
Weird
the 10th
things.
seed. They were where the
Now
Bills
they're the
were.
10th. Weird things happen in the NFL. Enjoy the win. Like as a fan, if you're listening to this, watching this, enjoy the wins, enjoy the holiday.
Yep.
And then worry about the Patriots. Players get a 24-hour rule. You get like a week and a half rule. Then you have to start thinking about the Patriots.
Exactly. All right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. For 7 Sports Director Matt Bove, I'm Dom Tibbetts. See you guys next time.